It is the end of Q3. We're into the final quarter of the year. Doesn't that scare you? Because it scares the hell out of me. And so we're going to be doing our Q3 reading wrap up, but slightly differently this time. Today, you're going to get the first half of the video is going to be me talking about more in detail about the books that I read in Q3. And then the second half of the video, I'm going to be tier ranking all the books that I read in Q3. So actually I used to do this in 2 videos, it's now 1. That's bang for your buck. Wow, amazing. So let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about the books in the order with which I read them. I'm going to put like a selection of 3 in the description down below for you to pick up from bookshop.org and Waterstones, or get any of these from your local library. First up is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. I actually did a whole review of this as part of our book club, which you can join from as little as £1 a month as a member. We'll get more into that at the end of the video. Banana Yoshimoto's Kitchen is... it's beautiful. It is a story of loss, of tragedy, of finding oneself. It is extremely progressive for the time with which it came out, the late 80s, as well as coming out in Japan. It's just very progressive as a story. It is moving. It is really great. You know, if you want a story all about self-discovery, one that does have tragedy laced within, one that has pretty decent transgender representation in it, especially, again, for the late 80s in Japan, Kitchen is a great pickup. I would not recommend the 1989 TV drama adaptation of it. Very bad. Actually, also, movie club members got access to my review of that also. Don't watch the TV drama, the 1989 TV drama. Stick to the book. It's so good. And also, my edition came with a short story at the end of it as well, which was actually really great. And I'm pretty sure they turned that into a movie too, which might be slightly better, but it's a really great package for you to pick up. Next up is Life Isn't All Ha Ha Hee Hee by Mira Sayal. Again, I think I've gotten into this a little bit before, but Mira Sayal, if you're not from the UK, she's kind of part of a group of British Asian comedians who were kind of all over television, theatre, just the general entertainment section in like the 80s and more so the 90s. They were like, their stuff is still funny, and you'll still see all of them now in more prominent parts of the British media, which is really fun to see. But Mira Sayal is more of a comedy one out of all of them. They were a bit of a comedy troupe as well, to be honest. But she's great. She wrote this book, and this book is, I think, again, it's a British Asian story, but also it's a British Asian story from a female perspective. So there's that extra layer, which maybe myself, I can't, step into as a guy. There's always intersectionality is so important, but seeing the aspects of the culture being represented through this book from a British Asian perspective as well is really interesting. Even if you're not British Asian, I think it's really important for people to read these kind of books, so I would pick it up if I were you. It's a bit old. It's from the late 90s. I'm also from the late 90s, I suppose, so maybe I shouldn't have called that old. But really introspective and enjoyable book. It's humorous, it's witty, it's sad. Is it a book I would call a bestseller award winner? No, but not every book needs to be, and I enjoyed reading this. The Islamophobia Industry by Nathan Lean. This book was interesting, it was important. I think it's something that's growing. Right now we are seeing the new big thing they're doing now. Well, actually in the US it's everyone who's not a Trump supporter is a terrorist, apparently. But kind of until that started being a thing, and still now, Islamophobia is the big talking point of the far right at the moment. And even though I'm seeing people slightly starting to wake up to it, it's very much so the thing where Tommy Robinson, Nigel Farage, even the mainstream UK political parties, generics in the Tory party, Keir Starmer even leans into this as well. They're oh, we need a new scapegoat. Oh, it's the Muslim, the Muslims. They're the new scapegoat. So It's an interesting book. It's an interesting look into it. I do feel like this book could have gone deeper. It could have gone further. Maybe the point of this book was meant to introduce people to the Islamophobia industry. You know, as a Muslim who is, you know, quite politically aware, I was probably aware of some of the stuff that he was writing about in this book. But maybe for a third-party onlooker, this is better for them. Someone who's not actually, you know, in the culture, in the scene, in the know of this stuff. But I would have liked a book which went a little bit further, followed the money trail, followed the paper trail, who is behind all of these big activists. It touches on that, but it doesn't do a really great deep dive into it. But maybe that's not the purpose of this book. The State and Revolution by Vladimir Lenin. You know, if you are someone who is left-wing, you've got to read this. It's like one of Lenin's books, so I'm like, okay, well, you're definitely gonna have to read this. Like this and What Is to Be Done. To be honest, those are the only two Lenin books I have read as well. State and Revolution has also been very interesting and helpful for me to kind of understand, you know, left-wing, you know, Marxist-Leninist politics as well. Like, this isn't something I've talked about. Maybe I have, but I wanted this year to read different aspects of, you know, communist ideologies, left-wing ideologies, and kind of see which ones I align with the best. I mean, you don't necessarily need to be someone who's like, I am strictly, you know, a Naxalite Maoist, or I am strictly a Marxist-Leninist, or I am strictly a Trotskyist. Sorry, it's the meme. But to even talk about these things, I think it's important for us to actually have read the theory as well. Obviously, doing your praxis is what's most important, but you kind of need the theory to back up that praxis, and especially if you want to be part of the movement to spread some form of revolution. But State and Revolution, sorry, I digress there, extremely interesting, quite readable. I know Lenin was the type of guy who was like, fuck it, we ball, when he was writing, kind of like Marx, but Marx had Engels to be like, no, concentrate, whereas Lenin a little bit less so it's a little bit just like fucking shoot from the hip, but it's still a good read. Palestine Comes First by Lucas Gronenberg. This is a really interesting book, which I'm pretty sure I've spoken about this in another video, and someone has mentioned you can get this book for free on the Internet Archive, so you can probably find that. I paid like £3 anyway for it, so I didn't mind. Very interesting, from the 80s. Does a similar thing to Ilan Pappé's 10 Myths About Israel, where it's Cronenberg trying to basically use historical facts to disprove a lot of the Zionist myths that Israel has created to justify its existence, to justify its crimes against the Palestinian people. So, very interesting book. Obviously slightly older language, and no, it's the 80s, it's not that old, but also it's translated from Dutch as well. So obviously when you've got a translation plus it's about 20, oh god, it's not 20 years old, it's 40 years old. Bloody hell, nearly 50 actually, so yeah, it's quite old. What was I saying? Yeah, when you've got books like that, the language is a little bit harder, but I recommend it. Up next is We'll Prescribe You a Cat, which, you know, it was a big part of my healing Japanese fiction video, which did really well, and thank you, you know, slight tangent, thank you so much for the great response on that. So I'm sure some of you are new viewers from that video as well. Thank you. That's the kind of video I do want to be making going forward. Obviously this video is not quite that, but it's a tradition for me to be doing my wrap-ups, particularly the quarterly wrap-ups, so I can't break with tradition, can I? That's a very conservative way of thinking. That's deep dive. No. But as I said in that video, these books are still fun to read. I don't think We'll Prescribe You a Cat was as good as like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, in my own opinion. But, you know, they're nice, they're heartwarming, they're healing Japanese fiction. But they're a balm. They're not, you know, they're not the solution to all of your problems. But, you know, if you want a nice little read, it's nice. I do prefer Before the Coffee Gets Cold, though. Sing to the Western Wind. This was the September read. The September read was very depressing. This book really was like, hey, do you want to get punched in the stomach and get generational trauma? Well, here you go, buddy. And it was like, oh, didn't enjoy that very much. As in, I enjoyed the read, I didn't enjoy the trauma that it gave me. Good read. I feel like the middle is the most interesting part of the book, but like in my review I gave for the members, which again, from £1 a month you can join and become a member, we went very heavily into Pakistani history and Pakistani politics, which definitely gives you an extra layer of understanding of the mindset of some of these characters. And also, you know, British history and politics too actually plays a good part in the understanding, but still an interesting read, and maybe one that can motivate you to go off and read more about Pakistani politics, which is quite cool. I have just realised I haven't mentioned any of the books I read in July. I forgot July was part of Q3, so we're going to step back a little bit now and go through the July books as well. I read a lot more books than I thought I did. Next up is How Steeple's Cinderbury Wanderers won the FA Cup. This is an old J.L. Carr book. Very British, very witty, very fun. This was the book club book. Again, £1 a month you can join from. I'm going to plug that. There's no more times for me to plug that. I think I've spoken about all three now. But read it because of the Euros, and guess what? The Lionesses won. I wore my cursed England shirt, and it wasn't a curse anymore, seemingly. So it's a fun read. Very British humour. I think the first third of the book, I was like, this is a little bit... No, I enjoyed the first third. I really enjoyed the last third. The middle section was a little bit repetitive for me, but that last third really grabbed me back in and brought me back into the story. So it was good fun. It's short as well, and it's J.L. Carr, very British, you know. If you want to read like that post, you know, World War II British, you know, writer, I'd pick up J.L. Carr. Hostile Homeland by Azad Isa. This book is really interesting. It's about the relationship between India and Israel over time, and how it's changed and grown and morphed, and how actually since basically the inception of India, from the inception of Israel, India has been surprisingly close to Israel. It's a super interesting read. I had Hindufta people in my comments of a short I made about it attacking me, which means it's a good book in my opinion. It's like a bit of a depressing read if you're South Asian, especially if you're Indian, or at least half Indian like myself, but a very important and interesting one. Oh boy, The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by that one fascist, Yukio Mishima. PewDiePie's favourite author, by the way. So if you are new here, a little bit of recent lore, bought this book, read it, I thought, wow, this is a critique of fascism and how fascism is bad. Made a video, people commented on that video, they were like, actually no, Mishima was a massive fascist. I said, oh shit, what? Then did my research, took down the video, made a new video being like, actually no, Mishima is a fascist, and this book, which I thought was an interesting and witty critique of fascism, is actually a fascist being like, fascism good, huh? I would say if you're gonna read, and also I found out this is PewDiePie's favourite author, and he like doubled down on it, which was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, oh wait, it's PewDiePie? Yeah, I get why his favourite author's a fascist. Anyway, if you're gonna read this, don't buy it, don't spend money on it. I regret spending money on it. I mean, Mishima... I speak about what he did to himself, I think, in the second video, but he did that, so he's not getting the money, but the publishers are still profiting off of what is ostensibly a call to fascism in this book. So if you're gonna read it critically, not like, and actually, that was the book I read, and I was like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be more critical. I'm gonna do my research, and that's why that healing fiction video was actually better, because I was critical, did my research on it. It was a flashpoint for me. Anyway, yeah, read this for free. Pirate it, steal it. You know what? Just take it from somewhere, and then think and be like, wait, no, this isn't a a satirical critique of fascism. It is actually a fascist. And to round up July, because we step back to July, 24/7, this book is all about how capitalism is costing us our sleep. And this is something I've had, firsthand when I was a youngster. Damn, bro, I love to sleep. And now I'm in the late stage capitalist hellhole of, needing to find work, needing to, do gig work, needing to, even this, like creating and doing all of this stuff, which we'll get into in a later book as well. All of this plays into me. I'm sacrificing sleep. I'm sacrificing rest for the exploits of capitalism, because I need to be able to pay off bills. I need to be able to pay for my university and the things for my university. I need to be able to pay for my credit card bill. I need to be able to save up to be able to buy a house. And what do? I sacrifice rest. I sacrifice sleep, so then I can work an extra hour, make an extra 20-something quid an hour. I make more videos in the hopes that maybe this is the video which gets me 100,000 subscribers, and I can stop working other jobs and I can concentrate on this. And even that, keep looking at the analytics, stuff like reading like modern philosophy is very depressing. I think reading all philosophy is depressing, and we're going to get into that later. Talking about philosophy, Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Freire. This is an extremely interesting book. It is Paulo Freire writing about how he thinks is the best way of going about educating the Brazilian working class at the time in the 60s, but is actually still something that we can apply to our modern day, even, Western lens of understanding of education. So Freire argues that the current system we use is, I'm gonna simplify it, is a system that is built to just teach us to pass tests and advance in a framework system that has been built to ensure we become the best worker possible to be exploited by corporations. Whereas Freire argues for a method of education which actually puts the educator on an equal playing field with the people being educated, educating them in a way that applies to the things that are interesting and important to these people. So this is about the agrarian working class in Brazil. So, the method of education would be educating them through a lens that them as the agrarian working class can understand and can apply to their real world, whilst also helping educate them in these wider ideas, but relating it back to something that actually is relevant to them, and in a way that doesn't make them feel like they are lesser than the person doing the educating. Furthermore, this can be applied to any revolutionary and organizing work you do too. Freire kind of speaks not just about education, but how we can organize to fight capitalism as well and lead to a revolution through similar methods in education and organizing. It's a super interesting read. Not easy. I'm probably going to need to read it at least once or twice more to really get an understanding of it, but a very, very interesting read. Mornings with My Cat Me by Mayumi Inaba. I apologize. I said that very wrong. This is a sweet, heart-wrenching, lovely little... is it a memoir? It's 20 years. It covers 20 years. So is that I guess that is a specific point in time for the author. So it is, I guess, a memoir. It's lovely. Inaba talking about how Me has been with her through ups and downs in her life, how the cat has stood by her side when maybe her marriage failed. That's a harsh way of saying it. Her marriage ended. Her time with Me as she became a successful author, and the end of her time with Me and the emotions that wrought from her. It's a lovely, beautiful book. I wouldn't say it's mind-blowing and world-changing, but it's a very lovely book. I wouldn't call it a healing fiction, even though you kind of get Inaba talking about her experience afterwards and how she felt, but it is a memoir, so it's different. I wouldn't put it in the same category as like Will Prescribe You a Cat. Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy. If you don't know Arundhati Roy, you should. She is a spectacular writer, author, human being, activist, everything. I have only read one of her fiction books, which was The God of Small Things, which is obviously an award-winning, spectacular book. This isn't fiction. This is a kind of like a memoir, which is about her mother's life and kind of her relationship with her mother, which was fraught, to say the least. Obviously, I connect this with this on a different scale because Roy is from the same part of India that my family, my Indian family, is from as well. So there's that extra spark of like, oh wow, this and that. And this book was one where I could connect with my mum and be like, oh, where's this place in Kerala? Where's this place? Where's that? What is this food or whatever that she's talking about? Because even though I have connection to it, there's still that disconnect, obviously, as diaspora. So that was lovely. Roy, I think I wrote this in my story graph for you. This book really is a testament to Roy's ability to write. Because it is a memoir, it's non-fiction, but it feels like you're being told a story. And that's what a really good memoir does. It's introspective, it's deep. It feels more like a story than a recollection. You know, autobiographies oftentimes feel like being like, then I did this and then I did that. But the beauty of the memoir is you can be more introspective, you can go more deep into it, and I thought it was beautiful, it was heart-wrenching, and really reminded me why God of Small Things, despite being like a difficult read, just like this is a difficult read like emotionally, is such a well-written book. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. There's a specific reason I read this book. I'm not telling you, but there's a specific reason why I read this book. You know what? It's not the type of book I would typically read. Typically, I am a bit pretentious with my reading choices, as you can tell. If you're new here, I'm pretty pretentious with my reading choices. But, so despite me not being the actual target audience for this book, there were glimpses I found that were decent. You know, I didn't think the writing was awfully good, but also it's, you know, I'm pretentious. I love my, you know, superfluous, lovely written prose, but it got across what it needs to get across. You know, the main character, who is also the narrator, also, you know, as I get older, I don't know if I'm like a first person narrator fan, but I kind of am, sort of. I don't know. Well, but anyway, there were things that I picked out from this that I was like, oh wow, that's quite good. Like the politics, I think maybe so far in this book maybe could go deeper. That maybe I know there's subsequent books which I don't think I'll read, but there are subsequent books to this where maybe the politics is explored more deeply as well, which I thought that was quite, you know, it was a good introduction to it. The twist really got me, so that's very well done. I was not expecting the twist that happened. I don't know if that's just me. Maybe this is a more common thing in this kind of genre, but completely got me, to say the least. Will I read the next book? Probably not. Maybe if I have an incentive, like which is the same incentive with which I read this book, I would maybe read it. But you know, overall, I get why this is a popular book. It's just not for me, which is fine. Like I've read other books before, which I've said the same thing, where I get why it's popular. It's just not for me. That's fine. I think it's good to maybe sometimes try and pick up these books. So sometimes you'll find one that you'll like Aragon. I'm not quite the target audience, but I enjoyed it. And so then I read all the Aragon books. Which then led me to read Earthsea. Oh my god, we mentioned Earthsea! But yeah. Psychopolitics by Byung-Chun Han. This book, oh my god, depressed me. Talking about depressing modern philosophy. This book, I made a short on this where I basically gave my reaction as I finished the book. Everything is bad. Everything sucks. Everything is just us being exploited. Kind of is how I felt initially when I read this. It's even like this, like me making this video. I'm here I am putting myself out there in a way that is me almost like putting myself into this hyper-capitalist system which is exploiting me and exploiting you, and I barely get like a chunk of the money which I generate for YouTube off this video, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned in another video I made. And it's just like it made me infuriated and also sad and burnt out. I recommend it though. I think you should read it. It's like less than 100 pages. This, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm a philosophy student, so maybe in 3 years' time I can actually give like you a proper in-depth explanation to my thoughts and feelings about this book. But it's like, wow, man, like it's all we're being exploited, and we're all being like forced into like self-censorship and self-exploitation, and like making ourselves the arbiters of controlling each other to fit into this online landscape that we have created. Moving on. Selected poems by Rabindranath Tagore. What's funny is there's a movie which came out a couple of years ago, a Bollywood movie, which I don't really watch Bollywood movies anymore because they've all just become hinder to propaganda. But there's like Rocky Orani, if you've seen it, there's a scene where Tagore is like on the like wall of one of the characters' homes, and it's part of a joke. It's quite funny. Anyway, collection of poems by Tagore, beautiful, many of them beautiful. This is heritage, to quote Jose Mourinho. The one that really stood out to me was the Shah Jahan one. I went back and read that a couple times and thought, this is really lovely. But yeah, you don't need to buy this collection. Just go off and read some Tagore poems. You can read them online for free. Nestle, I'm just trying to get a pronunciation guide for the next author, man. Go away. And the final book for this half of the video is Lucian's All Tales Retold. Lucian, Chinese writer from the 20s, wrote The True Story of RQ, which I've made a whole video on that. Really great, interesting read. This was Lucian basically, I said that wrong, Lucian basically trying to take classical ancient Chinese stories, mythology, and expanding them into stories. There's about 7 of them in this collection. Super interesting. There were footnotes in my version which kind of gave explanations to some of the characters and some of the Chinese mythology, which I thought really enhanced the reading of this, and also gave me context. And even when there was like jokes and satire, which obviously as a external third-party person I don't get, I don't speak Chinese. I tried to learn Chinese and I failed horribly, and I don't know Chinese culture that deeply. Having those footnotes explaining that kind of stuff, super helpful. Some of the reads really interesting. Maybe don't do what I did where I read all of this in one go. Maybe picking one a day or something would be a more good way of digesting these tales, but I recommend it. It was very interesting. And my edition was, if you are actually trying to learn Chinese, it was one of the ones where like had the Chinese on one side and had the English on one side. So it was really interesting. So that's the end of the first half of this video. And now it's time for part 2, where we're going to be tier ranking the books. So S, top tier, D, bottom tier. This is all relative to the books themselves. So this isn't all the books ever, just relative to the books we read. Let's get into this. This is in no particular order, by the way. When I uploaded the things, they went in no particular order. Life isn't always ha ha he he. I'm going to put this in a B. I think it was a fine book. It was a good book. It was a fun book. I didn't think it was it didn't like blow me away. It wasn't great. It wasn't one where I was like, I can't put this down at all. So it's a good solid B. It's a solid book. And also, if you're new here, we do rank things on the scale within therein. So a high B down to a low B, etc. for all of the letters. Mother Mary Comes to Me, this is an A. Again, S is really reserved for like the creme de la creme books that I was like, these are absolutely must reads. This is a very good read, a really good read. I think you should read this book. But also, again, it's one of those books where maybe context and understanding help elevate the book. So I'm taking that into consideration. Like the context of her being from South India really elevated the book for me because of my own personal circumstances. The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. I think tentatively I'm putting this as an S. I think this is a book that everyone should read. I've also realized I've zoomed in way too much. Okay, there we go. That's better. Now I can see the books. This is a bloody great book. I think especially if you're someone who's interested in organizing and or education, this is spectacular. But even if you're not, I think this is a book you should read because it really will open your mind to the problems we have with education, even to this day, like, God, 70, 80 years after this was written. Now, the Islamophobia industry. See, B is in the middle. I'm going to put this as... I don't think any of the books I read were bad. I'm putting this in a B. I think C might be too harsh. C might be too low. Maybe if there was another tier, I feel like... I don't know, whatever. We're sticking with these 5. Yes, B, just because I feel like more could have been gone into, but also understanding for someone who is new to this topic, it's a very good book, but isn't as deep as I personally would like, who's someone who is more, knowledgeable about the topic. Tagore, we'll put it in a B for now. I'm not the biggest fan of poetry, or I don't fully understand poetry. I'm not this. Me noggin don't work too good. Isn't that like a meme from a show, from a kid show? Me noggin don't... is that SpongeBob? No, I don't know. It's something... Oh, it's The Simpsons. So you're saying it's me peeper and not me noggin? Yeah, it's Bart. Anyway, what a tangent. But the Shah Jahan poem was really great. I really enjoyed that. And the other ones I really enjoyed too. It's just, I'm not really a poetry guy, really, but I wanted to read the Tagore poems. And obviously the older poems, they're more like epics. They're closer to fuller stories, but they're poetry, not prose. Need I say more? I'm not PewDiePie, okay? I'm not Pewds. I'm just an idiot who didn't realize this wasn't satire. So it's always important to research your authors. That's why your teachers told you to always research the authors. Again, this might be revised down. Mornings with My Cat Me. It was fun. It was interesting. It was lovely. Very heart-wrenching. Not life-changing for me personally, but it was really heart-wrenching, actually. We'll reassess them at the end. This is an A. Very good read. Very depressing read, as most modern philosophy is. Understandably so. Very depressing. Red Queen. I'll get back. Yeah, I think I've really talked about this a lot in the first half of the video. I don't think I really need to go into too much more detail on that because I had a breakdown. Red Queen, again, this is going to go here, but I think I'm kind of... There's some of these I think I'm going to move down and we'll see where they go. Again, I recognize I am not the target audience, and I also recognize that, I am very pretentious with my reading, and thus that does kind of mar things when I'm looking at them, and that's on me, not necessarily the author. And like I said, I recognize why this is a book that people really love. And I'm glad that there were certain circumstances under why I read this book, because if I didn't have those circumstances, I wouldn't have read them, for sure. I'm putting Palestine Come First in an A because it feels like a predecessor to books like Parpey's 10 Myths About Israel, where he is basically debunking myths that Israel uses to justify its apartheid and genocide of the Palestinian people. It is a very interesting read. It is a little bit difficult in terms of the language, simply because it is an older book, plus it's a translation as well. So the language is a bit difficult to pass through, and it's very, very information dense. Kitchen, honestly, Kitchen is an S. I know there were people who didn't like Kitchen, and I kind of get it, but I was so moved by Kitchen, and there's also the double whammy of the short story alongside Something of the Moon. I hate that I don't remember it. Wait, I've got it here. I've got Kitchen right next to me. It is, oh no, it's not on the front. Where is it? I'm holding the book in my hand. Where was it? Oh, Moonlight Shadow. Okay, Moonlight Shadow. That was really good as well. So the double whammy, very interesting. Old Tales Retold. I'm going to put this on a high B. I'm going to reassess some of these anyway. Really great, really informative. I think it's a high B specifically because of the version I had, the edition I had. This isn't the edition I had. I just couldn't find the cover of the one I had. I said I had a lot there. Yeah, really, really interesting. And I think if you're someone who is more in tune with Chinese culture, you'd get even more out of it than I did. And then we move on to the State and Revolution. Obviously, you're gonna put, you know, you're gonna put Lenin as an A, because, you know, even though, you know, such a brilliant read, interesting read, I love Lenin's, you know, fuck it, we baller attitude when it comes to his writing. It's a hard read, and you can't really put a hard read in an S. Pedagogy of the Oppressed was a hard read, but it's less hard than these two in particular. But yeah, State and Revolution, gotta go as an A. Another A, Hostile Homeland. So interesting, so important in the era we live in, and enlightening as someone who didn't know about Israel and India's relationship in the past. I know the relationship now, but I didn't know the history behind it. So very, very interesting. Sing to the Western Wind is also an A. The generational trauma aside, very good. It's a low A just because I think to get the most out of this book, much like, I don't think necessarily, Roy's one, not really, not as much. This is a lot more than the Roy book. The context of knowing Pakistani politics and British politics in like the 70s really, really, really helps, significantly helps you understand and empathize with the characters in this book. You know what? It's a B for now. I thought it was a good book. It was a fun book. It was a healing Japanese fiction book. But it wasn't as good as Before the Coffee Gets Cold. How Steeple Cinderberry Wanderers won the FA Cup is going in a B as well. I'm going to revise the B category. Yeah, good. Just that middle third was very repetitive for me. I feel like the format of the FA Cup meant they had to do what they did with the middle of this book. The football influenced the book, and it made sense why it was like that. I just wish it was more condensed and truncated, and it's already a short book as well. And even though this gave me like a breakdown, I'm putting it in an S because it gave me a breakdown because it is so important. And yeah, insane. Just, I can feel it coming back. Okay, no, stop. Let's go into revising the B. So I do need to put things in the C category, and this is bad. D, bad. C isn't necessarily bad. I'm gonna revise. This stays there. I think Red Queen goes into a high C. Not that it's bad, just because it wasn't for me, but I recognize that it is good, and C isn't bad. You see, because if there was one more category, it would make more sense. C is not bad. C is decent. I'll give it C is a decent, and this is a high C. I'm gonna move. I'm going to put Tagore in a C, just because I'm not a poetry guy. Again, these are like the I get they're good, but they're just not for me category. And I think that makes sense. Like, if I wasn't me, I think these would be higher, if that makes sense. I think Life Isn't Always Ha Ha He He is a little bit lower on the B. This is there. Islamophobia Industry maybe a little bit lower as well. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good, S. These are the ones, these three, definitely go off and read, in my opinion. These, very good books, you should read them, but obviously I get if you don't, and also there's like context and stuff, just stopping them being S's. B, good books, I think you should read them, but they're not going to be your priority reads. These, again, books that weren't necessarily for me, but they're not bad. And this, Jesus Christ, please, someone tell PewDiePie to stop promoting a fascist author. So, those were all the books I read in 2025's Q3. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books and your opinions on them. Very long video, I think. Gonna be at least 30 minutes when it comes to the edit. Maybe a little bit shorter, we'll see. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you can become a member from as little as £1 a month. Members get access to bonus content. They get access to the book club, the movie club, and they get, to help me shape this channel. Thank you all of you who have joined since that most recent video on the healing Japanese fiction. That is the direction this channel is going to be going, but these kind of videos will still be peppered in here and there just because, I'm not a full-time content creator. Sometimes I can't do those deep dives every single week. But thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share this video with a friend or family member, and hey, I hope you read a great book today.